So in this video, we're going to go through what EssayPop is doing to integrate generative AI into our platform. We think we've come up with some really ingenious ways to incorporate the technology that is very different from what we're seeing from other platforms. We want to be responsible with how we use AI. We want our system to still have that very organic feel that EssayPop has, but at the same time, we want to save time for students and save time for teachers. One article that sort of informs what we're doing, and this is, I think, one of the best articles I've read in a while, is by Tony Wan from EdSurge. What do we gain and lose when students use AI to write? So we'll definitely make this available for you too. It's very current, came out April 24th, and a lot of what is written here is representative of what we believe in terms of how we're incorporating AI into our platform. So starting in school year 24-25, we'll have our AI tools ready to go. Going to show you a couple that we've already coded up and then talk about some that we're going to code up over the summer. First of all, we'll begin with our component-specific assistant in the form of chat here. So going here, we're in the EssayPop platform, and if you're not familiar with it, we are a template-based, color-coded writing system where students learn to write one component at a time. Sort of demystifies writing for students. This has been popular across the nation for a couple of years now, and now we're just beefing it up with the introduction of AI. So here we have a topic sentence in red, evidence in green, analysis in purple. This is classic EssayPop. The students are writing in these frames. And now let's just, for the sake of argument, say that a student wants some help with their thesis statement. So they're writing about a poem called The Fox, and the student has written the topic sentence here, and they want help. And it's very specific. It's been programmed to determine whether the topic sentence is effective or not. So what students are going to get, let's go ahead and just generate this now. And it happens literally that quick. The assistant is going to give a couple of things that it likes. So you made a clear point about how Kenneth Patchen's poem illustrates that all living creatures have a similar experience when it comes to tragedy. And then down here, we have things that might be worked on. Try to be more focused on elaborating why Patchen might want to draw this comparison between animals and humans, etc. Emphasize why the pregnant fox and the soldier's parallels in suffering are vital. And so the student can continue to have this conversation with the AI. And the AI, it understands, that this is a topic sentence. It also has been fed a lot of other information. It knows the piece of literature that's being worked on. All of this is happening, automatically in the background. And so let's have the student ask a question of the assistant. What is imagery? Shall I include imagery in my analysis? Let's see what the assistant says. So then it goes in, and as you can see, it gives a pretty detailed description of what imagery is. And what I really like about this is then it ties it back to the piece of literature itself. So not only is it a generic dictionary definition of what imagery is, but it's also tying it to the literature. And students can go back and forth as much as they want to sort of zero in on what they're trying to learn. It's, imagine all students doing this at the same time. It happens just as quickly like that. Let's go to the analysis and see. This is a conversation that I had earlier with the assistant regarding the analysis from my poem. And I just wanted to point out that, some students are going to want to try to, cut corners. This one said, I don't have time for that. Why don't you just write my essay for me? And the assistant has been programmed not to do that. John, I understand you're feeling pressed for time. It's essential to remember that asking for someone else to write your essay is not the best approach, etc., etc. And the kid says, bummer. Well, what about imagery in the poem? You say I should talk about that, but it's confusing. And then again, it's having this great conversation. It's calling the student by their name. It's happening in real time. And again, this can be scaled out to 30, 35, 100 kids, all doing this at the same time. And it is very specific in terms of the literature itself, or whatever the topic is that the student's writing about. Student says, the part about the fox being shot is really sad. Is that imagery? Yes, John. And it goes on. And it's having this high-level, patient conversation with the student, guiding them through being a better writer, not allowing them to cheat. And you can see there, it all happens in this sidebar. So this is working. We intend to style it a little bit more. It doesn't look too bad, but it will look even better. This is going to be a critical part of our AI integration. The next thing that we've introduced is a more holistic assessment of the entire piece of writing. So here, this represents a paragraph of poetry analysis, and you've seen how we can go, component by component. The system knows that we're, wanting to talk about analysis, topic sentence, etc., which really pinpoints the feedback and makes it more, in my opinion, useful for the student. But now the student's done and they want to get a sort of a temperature check. How did I do? And we're going to show you how the student is able to do that. So by hitting the Mark as Complete button here, this little check mark that I'm going to hit, you'll notice that you get a feedback, a little guy here saying that was easy. And then it's asking, would you like to run an AI temperature check on your writing? And the student says, yes, I would like that. So watch what happens here. So now we go and the student is seeing the writing that they've done in an MLA formatted sort of document here. They could use a title. We'll get back to that with the student. But you'll notice that it's color-coded as they have written it in their writing frames. But over here we have a score. We call it a temperature check. So we want to give them a score on a kind of a color spectrum here, with bright green being a 4 on a 4-point rubric, deep red being, maybe they didn't write anything at all. But also some commentary, some holistic commentary. So it says, I took a good look at what you wrote, John Doe Guest. Of course, it'll say them, their name. Let me share my thoughts with you. And they got a rating of a 3 out of 4. And well, why did you have this rating? You have a clear thesis about Patchen's poem. Your analysis includes specific examples. And it goes on and explains why it gave it a score of 3, which is proficient. And then some things that the student could do to maybe improve their essay. So we've decided that in our system, that if the student wants to go back and make some improvements, that they would be able to do that to try to increase their score here. And of course, this could be limited by the teacher. The teacher could, for example, in the essay dashboard say, I want to give the students 1 more shot at it, or 3 more shots at it, or maybe 0 more shots at it. Maybe this is a one-off where the student gets a score and that's it. So having the holistic temperature check, we think is just another really important thing that a student would want to see. And of course, we as teachers want to be able to see the scores of all of our students, and I'll show you how that happens next. So we'll go back now to the Hive area, and I'm going to look at a class of my students. Of course, most of my classes are much larger, but for our test purposes, we had a handful of kids here. And so you can see the color coding. You see a lot of kids scored in the green, kids kind of a yellow-green here. This is just a quick spot check. I can see quickly how much word count they completed and basically what temperature they scored. But if I want to go into more detail, for example, if I go to Faye here, we'll go ahead and click on her essay, and you can see there it is, color-coded. So I can read it. I can leave commentary here. Students can talk to each other, obviously, in the Hive, and this is something that's always been in EssayPop. The Hive is a place where kids can interact and collaborate. You can see she's got a couple comments from her peers. But I'm interested in seeing also how Faye interacted with the AI. So we'll go here to the AI assistant section and click on that. And we can see in her analysis, she got her initial feedback. And then the student asked, what are the main things to focus on improving? And it got into it, deepening analysis, explanation, clarity, thesis strength. And she simply wrote depth. And then I like that, a single word question, depth. And then the assistant's not shaken by this. When we talk about depth in your analysis, Faye, we mean delving further into the subtle meanings and themes. And then it gives her 3 things that she might do to give some depth. Can you give me an example? And you can see that Faye, one of my students, a 7th grader, has been having this great conversation with the AI, and it feels to me like a real conversation with a teacher or a TA, and I think that's great. And then, so how did she fare overall? How did Faye do on her analysis of the essay? It looks like she added a closer to it too, which was required, but she added that on her own. Good job, Faye. I'm going to go up here to the temperature check, and it looks like she got a 3.0. So she's in the green yellow area, probably closer to green, and this is her rating, and these were the comments that she received. So as you can see that in the earlier examples, I was sort of simulating being a student and how that experience was for me as a student. And now we're looking at the perspective of a teacher looking at one of her students and then eventually all of her students. So when I assess this and I want to give it a grade, I can be informed by this. I can accept this score. I can modify the score. But it really, really helps me along in terms of how to assess this piece of writing. Okay, so then I'll go ahead and go back to my Hive, and then we'll go ahead and look at Juanatas now and see how she fared. And again, the AI experience that each student had, I'm able to see very easily. Okay, so the next feature I'm going to have to just describe because it's not been built yet. We're about 2 weeks out, and we're in mid-May right now. So moderated chat is something that I think is really, really important. And so when a student is writing an essay, as Jasmine is here, you can see she's having this conversation with Zoe and Faye, and they're going back and forth. This is the chat that happens organically and always has been part of EssayPop. This is the Hive environment. So, and I can jump in. I haven't, as you can see, yet, but the teacher can jump in, and I just think they're having a great conversation. So what we're creating now is a AI friend or peer that will come in, and it will know that a conversation is happening between students, and it will sort of read what they're saying to one another, kind of listening in, and it will appear. It'll pop up, and it will join the conversation. And the reason we think this is important is it, A, makes the conversation more dynamic by having an extra person in there, but also will program the assistant to give feedback in the manner that we would like our students to give feedback to one another. Because as we all know, students don't always give the greatest of feedback. The feedback can be low level, it can be bland, it can be, simple. If someone says good job, that is not, the kind of substantive commentary that we would like to get. And so our assistant can kind of lead the way and give students a sense of what a good commentator will sound like. And the idea is that the students will learn from that. So by providing exemplary feedback, we're hoping the students will absorb that and start, mimicking that and providing their own exemplary feedback that they're learning from the assistant. Also, if a student's not getting enough feedback in the Hive, this can kind of ignite conversations to happen, so everybody feels like they're getting their fair share of attention. So moderated feedback is going to be huge. We're really close, actually, and in my next video, I'll make sure that we show that working. The other tool that we want to create will be sort of a post suggestion that the assistant determines the student might need after they've done a piece of writing. So suggestions for additional practice. In this situation, the assistant says, "Congratulations, you finished the essay. I noticed your analysis sections could use some work. Here's some shorter activities that could help you develop this skill." And then the student could then be given activities that would allow them to enhance their work on analysis. So this is, again, in the works, should be part of our production in school year 24-25. And this is, again, kind of adaptive, allows the system to know where the weaknesses and strengths are, and then can suggest that additional practice. So that's what we have cooking this summer for our integration of generative AI into the EssayPop platform. Pretty exciting stuff. We'll probably come up with some other ideas too, but these are the ones that are most important to us. So make sure you read this article. We'll get this one available for you as well. This is great stuff, and enjoy EssayPop and the new AI tools.